Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Ease of Spirit Ministries of Hope weekly discussion group. And we have been having a wonderful discussion on this Jesus Trilogy. My name is Andrea Graham. I am one of the founders of Ease of Spirit. My husband, the Reverend James Graham, is the other founder. And we are very, 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 very happy to have you here. For all of you that are already here and to all of you who may be on your way. We're really, really excited tonight. One of my teachers is going to be presenting tonight. I get to sit back and relax. My husband, we get to sit back and relax and allow Teddy Red to actually present. We're going to be covering the chapters, the truth, as well as living the truth. That's what we're going to talk about. But before we turn it over to Teddy, I'm going to open up in prayer. I'm going to do the daily inspiration. I'm going to do a very quick recap. And after that, I'm going to hand it over to Teddy. So I will just take a moment to mute everyone as we prepare for prayer. I really need this moment to just breathe. And so let's just take a deep breath in, realizing that we're breathing in the very essence of spirit, and release. Knowing that we are releasing just all of the thoughts of the day, the activities of the day, the concerns of the day. Take another deep breath in. And release. And just make a sacred space within yourself. Father, we're opening up to your teaching, your wisdom, your love. And take one more deep breath in. And release. As we recognize that God is the one power and presence, everything that exists and ever will exist is pressed out of the body of God in different forms of manifestation. And since the nature of God is absolute good, there can be no evil in reality. And so we just open ourselves up to this realization that God is and I am. And so, Father, with this awareness of you touching each and every one of us, touching the hearts and minds of each and every one of us, touching the experiences, touching the conversations, touching the relationships, the finances, realizing that you are in and through all things. In this awareness, we can say that this discussion on your truth, on living your truth, it is already done, and it is done indeed. And I release this prayer, placing it lovingly in your care, in the mighty, mighty name of Jesus. And so it is. Amen and amen.
Amen.
And I welcome everybody again. It's so wonderful to see you guys. Wonderful to see my friend Lisa in his house. Hey, Lisa. All right. So we are on Thursday. Pardon
this is
me?
Rose Douglas.
Hey, Rose.
Hey.
Welcome.
Hi, Rose.
All right.
So wonderful to have you.
Wonderful, yes. Oh my God.
I'm going to read from the Daily Inspiration, guys, and I'm going to open the floor up just for you guys to, if you have any conversation, because we're going to be talking about this hot topic in the Daily Inspiration. The writer says, dancing with money. Dancing with money. I know how to dance with God's abundance, and it loves to dance with me. We relate to each other in appreciative ways, you see. It always has me showing up as wonderfully supplied. We interact with integrity, honesty, and timeliness. I've spent time doing spiritual work. It has lifted my thinking. I can now distinguish what I need to spend from what I want to spend. Come on, divine intelligence. I can discern which is which, and I do not complain or fret or worry or beg. When I feel a complaint or any other debilitating thoughts coming on, I let Spirit guide me into redesigning my complaint into an affirmative prayer request. I thank you, God, for my abundant supply right now. I avoid complaining. It is demeaning and robs me of my power. I've also given up the need to manage my money. What? I've also given up the need to manage my money. Releasing money management allows me to manage my unlimited wants instead. I am the power that says when enough is enough. And so Psalms 36 says, and in my prosperity, I said, I shall never be moved. Isn't that powerful?
Yes.
That is powerful. This is somebody that understands that prosperity is not just about the dollar amount in your bank account. Prosperity is having what you need when you need it. It could come through a zillion streams of wealth, of abundance.
What'd you say?
So, what do you guys think about that? This whole idea of dancing with money.
I need the ID number. Charles Stevens is trying to get in.
Oh, you need the ID number for Reverend Charles. Guys, give me 1 second. I just got to give Reverend Charles the ID number. Oh, let me see here.
Can't you get it up?
I can, yeah. But it's still going to take me a second to get to it. My apologies, everyone.
His wife's not there. He can't do it, you know.
Okay, here is my phone, and there is a number that says personal ID. I don't know if that's what they're asking for.
74.
You better take that phone with you.
Okay, thank you.
So if no one has any comments about this, well, who?
I do. Andrea,
Yes.
may I come in on this? This is Doris.
Oh, hey, Doris. Yeah, please do.
Please bring that back up.
This really resonates with me because I have firsthand experience with those very words. There was a time when I was really concerned about my financial future. And, you know, I've heard other people say God spoke to them. And God really did speak to me in those very words. I had never read those words before, but all of a sudden, my mind filled with the thought that you will have what you need when you need it. And I have never, ever forgotten that. So this really hit home with me, and I just want to tell you about my experience with it.
Amen. You know, it puts you in the mind when you said that, Doris. I just thought about how the psalmist must have felt when he or she wrote, "The Lord is my shepherd and I shall not want." I mean, that's just an awareness that God is always providing for us.
Right.
You know, like Jesus said, we don't have to worry about anything, because seek ye first the kingdom of God and his righteousness, because the Father knows that you need these things.
Mm-hmm.
And so just like the lilies in the field, who are dressed even greater than Solomon in all his glory, how much more will God feed, dress, clothe, provide for us? And so it is a wonderful idea that we know that we can draw from the substance of God. And we know that we do that through our thinking and our feeling. We
Right.
shape and mold substance by the power of our thoughts, by our belief and our faith. So it's, yeah, very powerful. Anybody else? Okay, I'm just going to do a real quick review because I want to move out the way so that Teddi can talk to us about the truth and living the truth. It's a very meaty topic, and I hope that it's a lot of discussion that's around it. Last week, we did talk about the software. We talked about how it is to be the chooser, and we talked about nothing to choose. But I was actually talking with my friend Dan earlier this week, and she said that we needed to just stop and really talk about the ego, because we all may have different ideas about what the ego is. And so I'm going to open this floor for anybody that wants to talk, and please interrupt me at any time. But one of the things that we learned last week is that, yes, this egoic mind, as the writer puts it, it is like the software, which is like a program that we have in the background of our being that regulates a lot of things within us. It's like programs that will regulate your breathing, so you don't have to think about that. It regulates your heart beating. It also has certain instincts programmed in it so that you can react. You know, if you're in a situation that takes quick thinking and you need to move out of the way for your safety, you can react. It provides you with memories so that you don't have to think about just how you go about driving your car. You got to be mindful, but you don't have to think about every little thing and break it down like you did when you first started driving, because a lot of things become second nature to you. We develop what is called muscle memory, and all of those things are really important. And the whole concept of this idea of fear was something that was very important for primitive man, that may have been dealing with situations that physically he or she would not have been able to deal with if not for the fact that they had instincts that told them to get out the way, to either fight or flight. But the reason why this software is outdated is because we still operate as if anytime when we feel threatened, we gotta fight or flight. So if you disagree with me, and I feel like you won't accept my opinion about something, then I get what my kids say, get all up in my feelings like that. That's how they say it. And then I start to fight. I start to argue, because harmony at that time is not as important as me being right. And that's where the ego has developed this false sense of self. And so one of the things that the writer says is that these are not our true thoughts, that this is not the truth of our being, these ideas that the ego has grasped onto. And we get these ideas from a number of places. When I was a little girl, I was told over and over again that I was clumsy. God bless my mom. She didn't mean it. However, that was something that I held on to all throughout my adulthood. And that's something that you will play over and over again in your mind. But in truth, I am spirit. I can't be clumsy because I am harmonious and I am beauty in action. So how can I be clumsy? Because I'm created in the image and likeness of the one, of the sovereign one, the mighty king. And so that's some of the things that we discussed last week. But I am going to talk a little bit about this ego, and I'm reading from what is called The Revealing Word. And this is a book that was written by Charles Fillmore. I won't go into who he is right now. That's a topic for another date for those of you who may not know. But the ego is actually, it's a purpose for the ego. There is a purpose. And we talked about your character and your personality and how all of your gifts, your way of blessing this world flows through that ego. So there's a purpose for it. The ego is the I of you. Now, the writer of the Revealing Word says the ego is man, and by reason of his divinity, he makes and remakes as he wills. In this lies his greatest strength, but it's also his greatest weakness. Because when you start listening to the lies of the ego and you accept them, then you become this thing that you've been telling yourself. If you're a young person that came up a particular way and everybody that you saw was living a particular type of lifestyle that led them in situations that were unhealthy, you may take that to be, that's just what we do in my family, and you make yourself in that image. But it's not the truth of your being. So the ego in itself is possessed of nothing. It's a mere arrogant child of innocence floating in the mind of being. But through the door of its consciousness must flow all of the treasures of God, that divine imagination and creativity that you have, that love that flows from your heart, that power that is in the root of your tongue, all of that. And then we talk, when you listen to this writer talk about the ego, he's talking about the adverse ego. When the ego attaches itself to a sense of consciousness, it builds what Fillmore calls an antichrist man who has no basis in reality. This is known as the adverse ego. It is the adverse ego that causes all the trouble in the world. Its selfishness and greed makes men grovel in the mire of materiality when they might soar in the heavens of spirituality. So understand that your ego, it can become adverse at some point, looking at the lies that it sees through the senses and listening to the lies that it is saying in its own heart and mind. What we want to do is spiritualize our ego. And when we do that, it becomes the great I am within us. And when that occurs, there is nothing to choose. And I'm going to wrap this up. One of the things we talked about is this chooser. And I likened it to the conscious mind. Because in our conscious mind, our awareness, we analyze, we choose, right? We can reject and we can accept. We can criticize. The chooser does all of these things. And it's pivotal. It can look to what's going on in the outer, or it can look to the divine Christ within you. I'm going to read just a few things out of the book for the chooser. I mean, for the nothing to choose, because that's where I did not cover a lot. So it says here on page 54, life is so benevolent that it allows human beings to have whatever experiences it chooses to create, even painful ones. Now, that's a hard pill to swallow, and I want you guys to chew on it. I'm not going to open up discussion, but you might want to chew on it later as Teddi talks. Because we can have some painful experiences, and you may say, I didn't choose that. People create pain out of the challenges they are given by their own attitudes toward them. I had an experience I was sharing with Reverend May, where I'm going through some stuff in my job, and I perceive, because I'm a Black woman, that certain things are happening to me. But when you operate from the position of nothing to choose, you realize that whatever is unfolding in your life, in your world, in your affairs, it's unfolding just as it should. And that's when you get in the flow. You get in the flow of life, and you allow spirit to unfold through you as it should unfold. I'm going to read one little section at the very end, and then I'm turning this over to Teddi. Understand this. This is on page 57, and it is the last two paragraphs of this chapter, Nothing to Choose. Nothing to choose happens when the ego's power has completely disappeared. Nothing to choose occurs when you are not operating in duality. When you are not operating in good and evil, all you see is good, and there is nothing to choose. Once you choose, and it comes with being the examined light, you got to examine every thought and every feeling, the intentions behind them. This is how you reach this point of realizing that some of the things that's going through your mind is not true. When you examine them, when you go into inquiry, once you choose to believe that life is good and trustworthy, you drop into the flow and the chooser disappears. Period. Dot. Because there is no longer any inner conflict. Then you don't have to choose again, because you become the truth. You become the truth. The light. The truth and the light. When your beliefs are in line with the truth, they're like a key that unlocks the great beauty of your being, and the door to the new world opens for you. Finally, you are no longer at odds with yourself. There is only one direction to move in when you choose to believe in the truth about life. All other choices drop away. And you find yourself in harmony with life. All that is left is what is unfolding in this moment. And that is enough, more than enough. It is heaven on earth. And so with that, I hand it over to Teddi. Teddi, you have got a whole hour and a little bit more and some change. Got a chat. Oh, I do have a chat from Dan. Thank you. These are great chapters, and I appreciate understanding ego better. You're welcome, Dan. Go ahead, Teddi.
Good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon.
Hey, girl.
And I have one question. What makes us do what we do?
Why do we do what we do?
I heard that from someone. I said, I'm going to use that. Any answers? No?
Why do we do what we do? Because we ain't got no, we have to do something. It's a song that goes, what make you feel like doing stuff like that? Quincy Jones. Shaka Khan.
Any thoughts on that?
Could be the ego.
Oh, who said that?
That was Dan.
Dan? Oh, absolutely. Majority of the time we have moved through the ego, I'll say the realm of the ego in many, many things before we learn about ourselves. So it's just something that must be talked to all the time, expressed to, because once it's left alone and no type of attention, it will hitchhike a thought from you and move through something else with you that you may have gotten together within yourself. So what I'm going to do is start on page, I think this is page 59 on the truth. And I think since we've been taking these classes with Andrea and James, can anybody tell me what the truth is? The truth? Nope. Okay. I'm going to read this first paragraph and maybe we'll get a better understanding. And then I'm going to let James read truth for me in the revealing word. I will tell you the truth about life. The truth is actually very simple. Life is perfect just as it is. This includes you. You are perfect just as you are, and so is everyone else. There is no problem to fix. Although fixing and improving naturally happens, there is nothing that needs to be different, although everything is in the process of changing and becoming different. Therefore, nothing lacking within you, there is nothing lacking within you or in any moment, although everything is paradoxically evolving and becoming more of what it already is. You are eternal, although your body is not. You are divine consciousness, although you are not always aware of that. Love and goodness are your true nature, although there is not always your experience, although this is not always our experience. As we move through life, we have ups and downs and things we move through to get a better understanding of ourselves and to get strength with that, to get understanding with that, to get a belief with that, whatever it is. And this is how we move through this process of the truth. Now, James, could you read the truth for me, please?
Well, Andrea has a revealing word on the table in there. I'm in a different room. So if you would, Andrea,
I have it.
You have it? Here. But you know what, Teddy? I was go ahead and read it.
I already have it on the page, so I'll go ahead on and read it.
Okay, thank you so much.
The truth. So I'm reading from the revealing word, the absolute, that which accords with God as divine principle, that which is, has been, and ever will be, that which is eternally is. The truth of God is reality, the same yesterday, today, yea, and forever. The verities of being are eternal and have always existed. Truth abides in fullness, and this is the part that's underlined in my book, at the very core of man's being. As his consciousness, awareness expands, he touches the everlasting truth. What seems new is but the unveiling of that which has always been. The basic principle of truth is that the mind of each individual may be consciously unified with divine mind though through the indwelling Christ. Let me read that again because that's important. The
Yes.
basic principle of truth is that the mind of each individual may be consciously unified with divine mind through the indwelling Christ. By affirming atonement with God mind, we eventually realize the perfect mind which was in Christ Jesus.
What page are you reading
from? What page is that? That's on 200 of the Revealing Word. Oh, okay. Yeah.
Well, see, I was going to say in my own words, because I didn't have the Revealing Word, I always consider the truth to be that which is not going to ever change.
Amen.
You know, we go through changes, we change things, and Reverend May and I were talking right before the class. But the changes that we make are just like minor adjustments. They're not permanent changes, because the truth, like they said in that book, is like a river, and we're just like boats in the river, you know, or an object in the river. We don't change the flow. We don't change the truth. We only change certain aspects for a brief period. We can have an effect, but we really don't change the overall flow of the truth. Does that make sense to the people I'm talking to?
Yes.
Anyone out there?
Yes.
Because we, you know, the truth is what is God, and God is unchanging.
Amen.
It's unchangeable. God is perfect law.
Thank you.
And as I move on, I was looking at something in here on what to remember, and what we're doing now is going through truth, and what kind of truth that we have the realization of can help change us to move through living the truth, being the truth, and just being as we are moving through this book. As I move to my next page, which is page 60, it has on here, we have a wheel of choice, and that's a gift from God. He gave us many things to work with, but somehow we have forgotten, and we want to move back into that energy of being at one with God. So the one thing that we would have to do is to know what his truth is and have a true realization of that. And if I was going to ask Andrea, I have it here. And she does talk about realization in this book. And I thought about our Revealing Word, and also that was my word for a long time, realization, because everything was just floating in my head, and it was permeating and saturating my soul with all the good of what I need to realize about my God. So here, realization, the deep inner conviction and assurance of the fulfillment of an idea. It means atonement, completion, perfection, wholeness, repose, resting in God. It is the drawing of truth in the consciousness when realization takes place. One abides in the light of God's mind. It is the inner conviction that prayers have been answered, although there is yet no other manifestation. The supreme realization is unity with God mind, complete oneness with the Christ consciousness. This highest realization is taking place more widely today among men than at any other time in history. Jesus fully obtained this supreme realization. So our perfect Jesus Christ, the one we follow, the perfect pattern of life, the perfect pattern that lives within us, with all of this moving in and through us, we have everything we need to move ego to another place, teach ego so it won't hassle us, abide in the oneness with God through our prayer, meditation, practicing the power and presence that is within us until it becomes a perfect form of art as we move through this lesson. I'm still in truth now. And it just says sometimes when the ego figures out you're not going to bother with it anymore, that it's got you in control, it will sneak up on you and hijack some of your thoughts, some of your feelings, some of your words, some of your responses, some of your actions to get back into the picture, to get back in control. But without true understanding what truth is and what realization is, do we have to allow ego to come and do this, entrap us?
Well, we have a choice.
You have a choice. And remember, as we spoke last week, the ego is the little wheel.
Mm-hmm.
Small wheel, yeah.
Okay.
They also call it, don't they also refer to the ego as the false self?
Yes.
The false self. Yes, a lot of.
And we talked about the ego as actually being the illustration of like the good angel on the one shoulder and the devil on the other shoulder, like they show it in movies. The ego at times acts that role because it wants to come back into prominence in your life. It wants to have control. It wants. It creates these scenarios where you need, where you feel like you need, in order for you to rely on the ego. You know, it tells you that you need these physical manifestations in order to either be safe or secure or to measure up. And like you said, Teddy, if you're not really allowing the true self to rule you, you will listen to the ego, and that's how it gets back in control. You know, by telling you these things and you listening to them.
Absolutely.
It makes you insecure. You know,
absolutely.
like you don't measure up.
And as I move to page 62, paragraph 3, it says, when you are no longer in the ego's grip, all there is peace and the realization that everything is unfolding perfectly.
Oh, yes.
And you know, Jesus Christ said, I will keep you in perfect peace.
Yes.
We must have this realization. We must have this truth within our consciousness and allow it to abide in our consciousness and helping us change some of these beliefs that we've had about ourselves, about others, about many things that have happened in our experience as we move through them, not being aware of the ego. And this is what's really taking place. And when we do examine ourselves in consciousness, and I mean a true examine, I don't mean no, you know, ha ha, this is cool. I mean a deep one of who you are, what you are, and whose you are. And I mean, it's like writing yourself notes all the time. I am, God is, and reading how you increase that with each thought process that you have on the truth or your realization of the truth within you. Also, this third paragraph here on page 62, it says the illusion is set up very cleverly to maintain itself, and this is the ego, and it is maintained by beliefs such as these. Doing is good and just being is bad, because beliefs are what maintain the illusion. It makes sense that beliefs are what must be examined and changed to become free of the illusion. So we have to keep that in mind as we're moving through this change and new choices and a new belief of understanding what you're doing in your life and taking a moment after you went through an experience to examine it. Why did I say that? Why did I do that? What came up from that? It may have been you said something and an argument started, or disagreement. I won't say argument. Something out of harmony came about, and you don't want that. You want that perfect evidence of God within you.
You know, Teddy,
I got someone making a comment. It is my friend.
Okay,
Lisa.
fine. Mm-hmm. Who is it?
It's my girl Lisa. Are you waving at me, Lisa? Oh, she's just waving at me.
Oh, okay.
No, I want to ask
Hey,
you something,
Lisa.
Teddy.
I'm raising my hand actually because I can't find the thing, the button, so I can raise my hand.
Oh,
Oh,
okay.
okay.
Go ahead.
Did you want to
Okay,
say something?
could you
Just
go
quick.
could you elaborate on what it means to just be when you say just be,
Oh, look at the cute.
as opposed to being a doer?
Yes.
Could you elaborate on what it means to just be?
Yeah, Teddy, in the book it says that when you reach real peace, you come to the point where you can just be, where you don't
Yes.
feel like you have to do anything.
Anything.
You can just
Yes.
be in the moment. But
Yes.
that is a difficult concept, and I know what Lisa's talking about, because when I hit that point in the book, the idea of just being without having to do, you always feel like the need that there's something that you need to do. But in the book it says you get to that point where you can just be in the moment, be calm, be still. You don't feel like you need to accomplish anything. And that just seems so foreign to me. And I think that's what Lisa's talking about.
And another interesting thing that the writer talks about is when you get to this point of nothing to choose, because that's what you're talking about. And when you get to this point of nothing to choose, for a minute, you feel like you don't have any motivation.
Right.
But really, it's that you're not motivated. It's that shift. And so you're in this transitional state. But you're not motivated by the same things that used to motivate you. So now you're going to find that motivation, but it's spiritualized, and you're motivated by spirit, and you're moving in the flow. And that's what we want.
Is that what we're talking about there, Teddy?
Motivating your spirit.
But the idea of just being as opposed to doing.
Right.
I think when you learn to just be, it'll go back to what we were talking about, that spontaneous response. You didn't think about it, it was just there. And no, we haven't gotten there. And I just know that you will continue to have a process of mind that you will have to keep building yourself up. That would be your motivation, to not let these things come in, that you would have to start really thinking about what you're going to do next. What did I do yesterday? And that to me sounds like the ego comes and trips you up a little bit. This is what I'm speaking of now, Lisa. I don't know if that's what you need, but we have to choose to just be, just like we have to choose to love.
Yeah, because
and I can just share this experience because I'm telling you, this whole idea of just being, I'm not there. Just like Paul said, I don't consider myself to have apprehended yet, but this much I do. However, this whole thing on my job, I had some experiences, and I got to tell you, those were some experiences that was not comfortable for me. And I imagine that, these experiences are coming to me because I'm in this male-dominated environment, and I'm one of the few Black people there. And so this is how I saw it. But Spirit came to me and said, I'm going to tell you, and I know, Spirit said, number one, this is not the most important thing that you're doing here. This is the means for the most important thing that you're doing. The fact that you don't have all of these people pulling you in this direction and that direction to make you feel a sense of importance is not where you need to be worrying. Relax and go with the flow of this. Accept this and allow it to be revealed how this is in order. This gives you time to do the things that you need to do. And so I'm really working with that, but that whole idea of going with the flow of it and not fighting it, in that instance, it really, really comforted me because I was going through something.
And a lot of times people, just being could be a matter of you being able to not only accept your situation, but to
Yes.
accept yourself wherever
And
you are.
Yeah.
Some
And
people
whoever.
are more at peace or more evolved than other people. You know, so you don't look at other people and think, well, why don't they understand this truth the way I understand it? They are where they're supposed to be.
Yes.
You look at a person, they say, well, I need to lose 20 pounds. But no, you're fine like you are. If you want to lose 20 pounds, you will, but you are where you're supposed to be right now. It is an acceptance that takes away that egoic mind where you're always comparing and always like almost bringing yourself down because you're trying to do things instead of just being. You only have this moment that you live in. So you really should take that moment and make it something that is a religious type experience. You in this moment at this time is all you really have. The past is gone, the future's not here. You must be, and you must be in that moment. You must be where you are. That's where you were placed, and it is in perfect order that you are there right now. And that's the thing that you have to learn to accept, because that's the only way you're going to have true peace, if I'm understanding
Absolutely.
this chapter right.
Yes,
Is that correct?
It mentions that also, that when you accept yourself, you accept people in your environment the same. You don't try to change them. You don't try to inflect your understanding on them. You just move through that and just be, and you let them just be. From what I'm understanding from some of what I read already.
Right.
So sometimes when we can't do that, it's because the ego is still there, and we're searching in our consciousness of what to do, or it may be that change of space pattern or a chemicalization that's coming in. You just really don't know. This is why I stay prayed up and practice it until it becomes art.
But the problem I had with all that, Teddy, is when he said that even when bad things happen, bad things, when like tragedies and bad things happen,
I see that.
You got to accept that as okay. And that's kind of hard, don't you think?
Well, I mean, we've had a lot of family loved ones make their transition. We don't accept it. Pardon me?
I'm sorry, I'm laughing at Lisa. Go ahead, Teddy.
They going back and forth. I can't get in. I'm like,
I'm sorry, Lisa. Go ahead.
When you get the opportunity, I was going to say bring Teddy in. Let Teddy finish her thought, but bring Lisa in, Teddy, when you get the opportunity.
I'm sorry.
No, it's okay. Go ahead on, Lisa.
well,
I guess we didn't answer your question about just.
No, I didn't. I mean, when I asked the question, I just really wanted to get an understanding if we were both seeing it from the same perspective. To just be,
So how are you seeing it?
Well, I mean, to just be, for me, is almost just it's like saying to get in that rest, to rest in it. You know what I mean? Just to rest in it. But I think we all have points and moments and times where we are being, and sometimes we know it and sometimes we don't know it.
Absolutely.
I think that as we study more and we grow more, we can start focusing and trying to find those times and moments where we really are truly being, so that we can really see what it feels like. You know what I'm saying? Because sometimes to just say, just be, we know what it means to just do. And then to go tell somebody, just be, it's like, what are you really truly trying to say?
What you mean, like telling yourself just be, or somebody else?
I mean, if you,
I think I tell myself first and get the feeling for myself first before I would try to. This is just me because of what I have experienced in this truth and living the truth of the things that have happened to me and how I got out of pockets with what I thought somebody else should be doing, and I suggested, you see, and that wasn't good for me and that person. So I was just saying, if it's for me to say just be Teddy, and this is still talking also to yourself, talking to that ego, talking to the Christ, talking to God, talking to that inspired spirit within you, allowing you to say these words so that you will just be. Don't cause no disturbance. Just be love. Just be joy. Just be.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm thinking of. When
Teddy, if I can ask you a question, how do we do that? What kind of things can we do to help us in this process of being?
Well, it's in this book. I was trying to get to it, but it's like a lot of questions and it's good. A lot of questions and it's good. Okay. I have here on page 64, and it just has here, your free will is not a match for the greater will. When the small will is not aligned with the greater will always wins. Nevertheless, the greater will often allows the small will to get what it wants even when that desire is not aligned with the greater will, because the greater will intends for you to learn from your choices so that you will choose more wisely in the future. So I'm just saying, with just be, I'm sure we would learn a lot of things from what this paragraph has said. We would learn a lot of things, unless I wasn't reading. Did everybody understand what I just read?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay. And it's just getting in tune with the realization of what you had read and what the truth is, because neither one of them is going to change. You have to be real with yourself and the God within you, and the truth never changes. And making the right choices. And it has here on page 65, whatever is happening is meant to be happening.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I'm just saying, and I was mentioning, I know we've had some family transitions, and that was deep-hearted. And I mean, no one could just say, just be with this, because you have to make adjustments in your consciousness. You have to be relieved of some of the anxiety that's going through your mind, and it could be from the ego. Well, why did God do this? And why did you do that? And come up with some things that are not that adequate for us to make good choices after a grieving situation has had some time to move in and through our consciousness. Okay, and everybody don't grieve the same, and it could be a new thing that you're learning to do. And I'll just say this. When I went through my experience a year ago and I wasn't walking and had to use assistance with things to move around, I had to change my thought process. I had to give God more of my attention, because he had gave me so many things before that incident occurred and I ignored, okay? I'm just saying I didn't listen. And this is what goes, I didn't make the right choices, I think. But then I did, because I grew from that. I grew from that situation within myself. I grew from a lot of things that have happened, and the ego brought it about. And I'm thinking, I had wrote here, the ego is a gift from God. Help us get stronger in our awareness, help us move through these situations and know who is in alignment, or who we're in alignment with, and who the truth is and what the truth is.
But that concept that everything is unfolding just the way it should. That is a very difficult concept for a lot of people to accept. And especially when you're a child and things are unfolding in your family. You did not choose these things. These things are happening to you. And how do people process that this is unfolding just the way it should be?
It is just that. It's a process. It's a process because the subconscious mind is so powerful.
Yes.
It holds so much in there. I mean, my mother's not here, but when Mother's Day comes by, you know, I can still feel the things that I used to do on Mother's Day, or when her birthday comes by. I mean, it just comes back to me, the things, the subconscious mind knows when, what, where, what has been going on that you've been doing repetitively year after year after year after year after year. And it's a process. You're never going to get rid of it. But what happens is you get comfortable with it, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Teddy, you can't see, but Reverend May has her hands up also.
I don't know. I can't see. I see you, and I see
Yeah,
me
you
right
see
here
me.
in the corner.
I
see
know,
me
because
right here in the corner.
Yeah, well, you don't have the panoramic view because you're not the host. But I can see that Reverend May wanted to speak, so I'm going to try to help you out.
Before that, I just wanted to go to this.
I don't know if I'm going to help out. I'm just coming from my perspective. One of the things that we're talking about truth, and then how use it, and then how we're going to live it. And one of the challenges that I thought about was that I am not in this world, just me. So other people that I am in this world with are also making choices that may really affect me. And
Yes.
how am I going to do that? How am I going to stay in the now? And one of the things that the Spirit is telling Gina Lake in this book is that when we finally understand the truth, and we kind of spiritualize that ego, that conscious and subconscious mind, to understand that the personality is never in charge. It has choices, but it's never in charge because it has no real power. Only power there is, and we say it all the time, there's only one presence and one power, and it's true. So then what we have to do is find a way then to move from all these thoughts in the conscious and the subconscious phase of the mind into the area of the superconscious, so that we are one with that, and that everything that we are about is being in that consciousness. Be in that consciousness. And that's the only way that we can exercise ourselves in perfection of all that God wants us to be. It's difficult. Now, I'm reading this book, and it's saying that everything that's taking place is what should be taking place right now, mainly because of choices that we've made.
Absolutely.
And so now when we find ourselves trying to get to where we're trying to rise above that, do we go back and think about the choices, or do we just stay in the now, right here, right now, and say that no matter what it is, God is, truth is, and that's really all there is.
That's it.
It's really difficult because in our finite mind, I mean, we're not saying it like that, but what it's saying is, in order to live the truth, we have to find a way to float the boat in the flow. Otherwise, we're not going nowhere. We have to be in that boat and go with the current, which is currently in order with God. Otherwise, we're out of it.
Yes.
And also, I just have something here that as I went, just some notes I took. We must remember that there is nothing to be changed. Only our thoughts and perception of what we are thinking and feeling and seeing, words expressed and responses in the human, the physical, the cardinal mind, conditions, situations, opportunities that appear in the realm of the ego. I'm just talking about the ego at this time, because then when things are getting out of pockets, like Mayrose just mentioned, we can only keep ourselves centered if we want to get to understand what it is that we must continue to do to go through this evolution. Because from what I'm understanding, the ego will always be playing a part in our lives, and we have to make a choice and have to build ourselves up through prayer, practicing, meditation, and coming to the true understanding of, if you must change your thought and feeling about a situation that is occurring and you have to make a choice, sit down a little while by yourself, write it down and meditate on it, get a full understanding of your intentions. Like I think Andrea was saying something about something on her job, a true understanding of your intentions, what kind of response you know you will get if you allow that power and presence you guide you through it, because you know God is absolute good in all his intentions and all that he does for us. And you can go back to Genesis 1, I don't know, it's 31. God saw all that he made good and very, very good.
Yeah.
So these Bible verses and these statements that we make, they have to be affirmed within the penetration of our hearts, through our consciousness, through our entire being for it to work. And I think this is what that word realization means. And this is what she spoke on when I first, I think the second page or so was in here. So that's why I wrote it down and asked them to tell us about truth and life. Also, was another Bible verse, Psalms 141:3, set a guard over our mouths. Lord, keep watch over the door of my lips.
Amen.
Recognizing the words that we speak have so much to do, and you can say a word and open that door right back up for ego to come through again. I'm just saying, this is the way the words do with the universe. They answer what we're talking about, and not right at that time, but later on maybe. I'm on page 16. Oh, I'm on page 68, the second paragraph. The truth is you. The truth is you are having exactly the right experience for your growth or for some other reason. The only reason this doesn't seem so at times is that the ego wants life to be a certain way. When the ego desires are not being met, it assumes that it isn't having the right experience. And we just talked about that. You know, we got control over our thoughts and our feelings, and we just have to work diligently on them. It says here, how dare life be different than what I want? Sometimes it's wrong here. Usually the only thing wrong is one's thinking, and that is often the lesson.
And the thing that I always stop when I hear that, because I'm sensitive to just the human experience, is that when you have when you talk about children, see, at this point in my life, I definitely have the choice to analyze and accept whatever situation and see it in line with spirit. But when you are a child, this is when this teaching gets a little bit tough. When we see children that are born in situations that it's no way that they're going to be able to say, I'm just going to see this correctly. But one of the things that I find interesting in this teaching, and he alludes to it as he is talking in this book, he's alluding to it, is that we come pre-programmed with certain tendencies and certain situations to have certain experiences for the purposes of our growth. And it is sometimes believed by many people that those decisions were made before you even came, by you as a spiritual being, before you came into this physical realm. And in other words, in the spiritual realm, these are just lessons that need to be learned and things we need for our own spiritual growth. And so it's neither good nor bad. And so you are born into situations for the purposes of the divine plan over your life. When I look at my life, I can see it very, very, very clearly. I was not necessarily born in a situation as a child. Matter of fact, at the age of 3, I witnessed my grandmother being killed. And that's something that you'll hear me say from time to time. And there's no way that as a child, and in my humanness, that I would have had any other way to react to it other than the way I did, to run and hide under a cabinet. So, you know, but from the spiritual point, as I see how my life evolved, I could see why I had those experiences.
Oh, yes. Mm-hmm.
And so it's good to have that examined life to make sense out of, well, what is this? Why am I having this experience? Why am I always a caregiver? Or why am I always dealing with someone coming at me in an abusive way? Or why? Well, it's a pattern, and it's certain lessons that we have to learn from these experiences. And then as we continue to choose rightly, eventually we'll reach a point where that ego does drop off. And it is the spiritualized ego, the I am. And that's when there is nothing to choose.
Very good, Andrea. Thank you. I'm on page 69 now. There's a divine design, and you are a participant in it. The divine intentions are being revealed in every moment. To discover what is meant to be, all you have to do is notice what is already happening. What is supposed to be is what already is, and who knows what will be next. You will discover that in the next moment. And down at the bottom here, I just asked the question, what are you willing to believe? Make a list. And I know some of our belief systems, like Andre just finished speaking on, were developing in our spiritual awareness while we were in the beginning. And it takes a lot of self-examination, a lot of things. And I would just ask whoever, just write down things and take a daily tally of your thoughts and your intentions and what you're thinking about next, these kind of things. Just maybe 30 minutes every day when you come home from work, take time with yourself and do this. And every day, and then not for a week or so. And then if you see something on the same realm of what you went through before, you can kind of tally it up to, what did I do? How did I feel? And and nobody knows this but you. Nobody can tell you the answers to any of your questions that you ask yourself. And this is what I started doing, asking myself a lot of questions, and they were really dumb questions, okay? Why, in this part of when it says, the ego make you not feel good if you've been fronted on or being a fool. That's why we act so foolish when people make us think that we've been, foolish in some of the things that we did or say. So yes. So, why did I give somebody my power? You could almost say that. Why are you giving the ego your power? Just something to think about. Mm-hmm. And also on page 69, it says, you can do, this is the second paragraph, you can do whatever you want, and nothing you do is ever judged as a problem. Nothing you do can put you out of God's heart, for you are God's beloved. You are loved more than you can ever imagine. And I think this permeation of love going through our entire being is what is needed. So we won't question what some of the things that as truth students, I know still go through our minds, but some of the things that we should have some kind of concrete understanding to the truth of it, that the doubt would not even come before us. So if you can make you a list, what you really are willing to believe, make a list. And how often are you going to practice your prayer time and affirm the truth within yourself? I had some words here that I was going to look up or discuss with you, and I'll just give them to you if you want to write them down. Truth, love, living, belief, aware, identify, ego, illusions, and practice, and prayer. So I'm going to move on into the chapter 8, living the truth. And if you live the truth, you must have the realization of the truth, right?
Amen.
Thank you, Reverend.
Amen. I
And
second
so
that.
this truth, we really need to write it down and understand what it is. You know, it can't just be there to say once in a while. We got to have this in our entire, I'll say our entire update from the software that we have within us. So we're going to update ourselves with the truth. What is the truth? Realization, love, belief, aware. We're updating these things that we need to concentrate on a little bit to move through living the truth, which is the next chapter. And it has here on page 72, and this is what we were talking about a little early before anybody came online. By choosing to believe the truth, you drop into the truth about life, just as believing the ego's truth made the ego reality real. Believing the truth makes reality as it actually is real. All along, reality was what it is, but reality seems so much harsher when you believe the ego's belief about it and trusted what the mind said. And here, beliefs are all that creates the illusion, nothing more. Like smoke, beliefs have no substance, yet they create a seemingly real and true experience of life until you see otherwise, then you realize you were mistaken and fooled. And it's nothing more humbling to discover that you're humble enough to accept the truth or the mistake of someone, that even though they said something out of range or out of wax with you, that you have enough of truth and living the truth that you will just deny that statement and move on. Just realize the truth of what was said, your truth. And we all have this truth within us if we believe the truth of God. And God made us in his image and likeness, and what he made, he saw very, very good. And you have to kind of teach yourself a story as you move through your life experience and keep moving through, because we're going to have these experiences with every breath that we breathe. We're going to have these experiences, and we have to know how to abide in that power and presence as we move through them and stand on them firmly.
Teacher Teddi, that particular passage that you read about there being nothing more humbling than to find out things that you believe are not true. Because people go through all kind of changes rather than accept what they've always believed to be true is not true. You know, nobody likes to be made a fool out of. And you know, I've watched people who are in horrible relationships and they believe what that person told them, male and female, rather than admit that they were being made a fool out of. You know, their friends try to tell them, other people try to tell them, they won't accept it because there's nothing worse than admitting you've been made a fool out of. Just like the people who voted for Donald Trump. They will stand by him through thick and thin because they don't want to admit they've been made a fool out of. And you know, that when I read that passage in the book, that's the first thing that came to my mind. You know, they will, like he said, I can shoot a gun off on Fifth Avenue because these people were so desperate to have someone to take their point of view. You got to realize that from the 50s and 60s, they've been told that this white nationalism is a bad thing, but they still feel it in their heart. And they've been told these different things, and they feel like they've been getting the short end of the stick, and they had these personal phobias and fears that people were telling them were not true. And a man comes along and plays on those fears and phobias and tells them that they're real. So whatever he says, they're willing to believe it because he's speaking to their beliefs. And so one day they will find out that it's all an illusion. And Reverend May has her hand up. I think she wants to speak on that too.
Okay, we're going to let Reverend May speak, and then Teddi is going into her last 10 minutes, so we got to let her
get okay if she has to go a little bit longer next
Reverend
week,
May.
I was at the same place where Jim is talking now because last year when I had the visual, because I kept wondering, why is this happening? And so when I'm reading the lesson and it says that everything that's happening is supposed to be happening.
Yes.
And I kept saying, you know, well, why is this? And Father, how come you have not interceded with this situation? And it was never answered in the form that I expected. It was always answered in love and peace until the final point was like, go to Cleveland, get out of here, and you have this vigil in love and peace. And I'm saying, well, what does that got to do with the way this man is acting? But then in reading these lessons, this is something that's going on that has to happen, that has to be, and there's something that we have to learn. If it's nothing but that out of all of this craziness or appearance of it, that God is still in control. And I'm trying to go with that flow. I'm trying to stay focused in that. If I'm going to say and believe that there's only one presence and power, then let that be. Let that manifest in this situation as well. And I'm going to tell you, it's difficult, but I mean, I'm trying my best. I'm trying my best.
Yes.
Now, Teddy,
we have those short overcomings lots of times. What may is, you know, through a thickened situation, we get the short overcomings instantly to keep us in abiding in the spirit of the power and presence of God, that would keep us moving into some other, I mean, this is what I'm thinking sometimes when it supposedly happened, but if you know you've done something before to put God first, it probably will happen, and you'll see the truth of it. The truth of it, because, oh, I did take time to talk and to get my meditation in, to speak to the Father before I made a decision to do whatever I was getting ready to do, and you see a difference, outcome of it.
Teddy, I'm going to ask you a favor. We've only got 13 minutes left, so we're going to have to carry your second chapter over into the beginning of next week.
Yeah, just make it a part of your recap. I don't want to make you.
Huh?
No?
Just make it a part of your recap, and you'll get 15, 20 minutes in the very beginning.
Okay, that'd be good.
Okay, because we got 13 minutes. We want to have time to pray out. And also, if there's anybody that has any thoughts or questions, this would be a great time because we got about 13 minutes left. For anybody, if we can
we have 11.
Okay, we have 11 minutes where we can open the floor for. Some people may have had some questions, and if I missed somebody who had their hand up, I don't really know.
Oh, I have hand up.
Oh, that's my girl, Karen. How you doing, Karen? Which one is your phone number? Let me look. Okay, I got you. Okay.
Okay. I really want to say that I resonate with everything that you all have been talking about.
Oh, sorry.
especially, you know, when you're talking about just being, it's important to practice just being,
Yes.
or you're made to just be due to an accident or something like that. Because being made to just be really faces, you have to face reality immediately when you are forced to just be. But when you can take your time through your day and just practice moments of being, your life becomes so much better. And Louise Hay always talks about going with the flow of life, not resisting it, because illnesses occur a lot as a result of resisting life. And I just wanted to say, Andrea and Teddy, I could listen to you girls all day. Good job.
Oh, you sound good yourself. And what you
Yes,
said,
you do. That's exactly what I was thinking.
I just want to read this one statement
Thank
here
you.
on page 74. Living in the truth is living in the experience of the moment where all that needs to be known is known and all that needs to be done is done. Yes, it is that simple. Life is simple when you are awake to the real reality. And I believe, who was that was speaking?
That was Karen.
Karen, I just want to, you know, even when we have emergencies that come up, when we get into the practice of how we're going to do something, how we feel about our God, as Reverend Dr. May Rose spoke on, that power and presence that works in, it's nothing else. And we have to practice this, like you know, the weight, the guys that build their muscles up.
Yeah.
Weight lift, you know, they just didn't do that in a day or two. Okay.
Right.
And I'm saying for myself, this is what you do to your consciousness, to your every blood cell in your body. You just keep building up for the big future of building up, to know that you're doing this and you know what the outcome will be, that God is good. God would never leave you. He already said he created us very good, and and has given us all his power and presence through Jesus Christ, that our follower. And it's just so, this is what I learned, you know, I really beat myself up trying to learn this stuff, but I had to step back from what I was doing to captivate all that I needed to do for myself first, instead of trying to share and do for someone else. You know, this is like teaching or whatever. We all get it in evolution steps. You know, it just doesn't come to us. Praying just doesn't come either. It's a way that we ask the Father to give us the words to say, so that we'll know that it is positive, that is, we're not looking over anything. We won't have to make these long prayers or anything, but that we can get strong in the prayer and the power of what he has given us already within us, that we have overlooked. I'll say I have overlooked for a long time, and have just settled down to really work this out with God and have fellowship with him and Jesus Christ that's in my soul and spirit.
Amen, Teddy. Amen.
Amen.
Is there anyone else that wants to make a comment?
I do.
Hey, Reverend, it's
Reverend
wonderful
Charles.
to see you, Reverend Charles.
Yeah. Getting back to when I think you mentioned Donald Trump and Reverend Dr. Rose. She mentioned, you know, why is this happening?
Yes.
I think the other thing is getting into the flow. You have to understand where we are at this point, and Paul speaks about it. We're no longer fighting flesh and blood.
Come on now.
We're not no longer what? I didn't hear it.
We're no longer fighting flesh and blood, but we're fighting the principalities and the nations and things of that sort. That consciousness, or that territory, it's a whole new territory of consciousness that we are working through, and this is why this man is in office, because
Yes,
the
yes.
principalities, the principalities and things of that sort is what we are working through at this time in this 21st century here.
Yes.
Oh,
It's for the growth. It's for the growth. It's
For our
for
growth.
the growth of America and abroad.
Yes.
come on,
The
Reverend.
Thank you,
the
Reverend.
government. They said the government is upon his
His
shoulders.
shoulder. Yes.
Yes,
The
yes,
government
yes.
is
I
upon
love
his.
that.
It's about government and principalities that we are working with, and they are levels of consciousness.
Absolutely.
Oh my
Thank you,
goodness.
Reverend.
My. We're down to our last 5 minutes. Is there anyone else that would like to say something? Anybody? Teddy,
Huh?
awesome job.
Awesome.
This was a beautiful
Awesome.
discussion. This was a beautiful lesson. You are definitely appreciated, my darling. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Yes. I'm going to open the floor for whoever. Before I get off, I want to remind everybody that we do have our upcoming fellowship, which is going to be on the 31st of August at the Hilton Gardens. Please come. I have a wonderful guest speaker that is a friend of mine. He's very passionate about the things that he does, and so I'm really excited that he is our person of purpose. I also have Reverend Morgan that's going to be doing a workshop, and I just have just a few things to say. So it's going to be a wonderful, wonderful event, and I hope you guys can come. I'm also this weekend going to be on a panel at the Martin Luther King Center. I'm going to send that flyer out. It's a panel on domestic violence, and it's a balloon release. And so I'm sitting on the panel as clergy, as the minister. And so I'm looking forward to that. With that being said, I'm opening the floor up to anyone that would like to pray us out. It's a lot of people here that I would love to hear. You will, Teddy?
I will. I have a little a short one here.
Okay, go ahead.
Dear Heavenly Father, we just ask that we learn to practice the presence, have it become the power of our entire being and life. Let us meditate and think on good things and allow that this ministry to lift you up to the highest, for it is your divine idea. We thank you for each person that spoke and participated in the class with questions and ideas evolving in their minds. We thank you for our ministers, Reverend Andrea and James, with their taking hold to your idea, Father, and letting you lead the way.
Praise God.
Thank you so much, and praise God for all of this.
Thank you, Father.
Amen and amen.
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 Oh, Teddy, that was such a wonderful job. I love you guys. This was
Love you.
best discussions. Oh my goodness. Thank you
And
all
also,
so much.
now
Go ahead,
we're about to close out. We are only 1/3 of the way through the book. We have 2/3 of the book to go. Those of you who have a book, and Reverend May and Reverend Charles, if you and Lisa, if there's a particular chapter that is of interest to you and you think you might want to present, I'm speaking to the teachers in specific, just
that
let
would
us
be
know.
so wonderful.
We'd love to hear it. So I don't know, Satoria, have you been able to get a book yet? She's not talking to me.
Oh, she got her mic off though. She can
Oh,
talk. Satoria.
I guess she didn't hear me. But anyway, anyone who wants to present, just contact us so we can start getting all the books worked in.
Okay.
We love sharing it and having different presenters.
We love it. It brings color. It brings variety to our
Yes.
discussions. And that is a wonderful, wonderful thing. And we have so much talent in every one of our discussions. So, and it gives us a rest. You know, I came and I told Teddy, I said, I am depleted, but now I am revived. And so I feel so good. And so this has been a wonderful night. God bless you guys.
God bless
God
everyone.
bless.
Bless. Good night.
Good
Bye-bye.
night.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night, everyone. Have
Good
a blessed
night.